How I went from having very little art skills, zero watercolor skills, and business knowledge in 2019 to having in 2023 a small but strong and growing art business. And that's what I'm going to discuss in today's video as a way to celebrate the milestone of 10,000 subscribers on my YouTube channel. My first thought of building an art business came during Christmas of 2018. At the time, I had been watching a lot of art videos on YouTube and practicing a little bit after not doing any art for close to 30 years. And at the time, I don't consider I was very good at art at all. I was just learning to put color into my black and white art. And I had absolutely no painting knowledge, just a little bit of drawing. In May of 2019, a lot happened. I released my first official art video on this channel. It was a coloring book video, I believe. I also had found out just before that I was pregnant with my fourth child, and I had given my boss my resignation to do art with now a fourth child on the way. So as you can imagine, it was a very strange time for someone who had had a steady work life for years and years. Something I think contributed to me making great progress in my art career with very little support from family and a lot on my plate having kids was that early on I started building a strong mindset about how to deal with making an art career online. Because from watching a lot of videos on the topic of online business, I knew and fully accepted the fact that this was going to take some time and that there were going to be a lot of ups and downs, and that no matter what, the only way to build the career of my dreams and have an occupation where I can also care for my family as I please would be to push through. I actually started watercolor in the summer of 2019, very scared by this medium. Before that, I used mostly colored pencils and pastels, and it wasn't easy teaching myself how to paint. The first 6 months were full of ups and downs, and it wasn't until late 2019 I really started to take art seriously, and I started creating several times a week instead of just once a week. And I know it's cliche, but practice just is what will help you improve fast. You have to get in there and just do it. And the spike of motivation was mostly due to the fact I started an Instagram account, and there you kind of have to post a lot every week to actually see momentum and become a full part of the art community. And even though I have a love-hate relationship with Instagram, actually I like it less than I love it nowadays. It was a huge part in giving me motivation to shut down my fears for creating, because they're always there with each new artwork, at least for me. And I really just went for creation almost daily without overthinking it. I improved and I built a very nice collection of paintings that set the foundations for my skills. So during that time, I took a lot of classes on platforms like Skillshare, YouTube, and that was a lot of fun. And I also participated in challenges on Instagram. And those were one of the best ways to improve faster for me. A breakthrough in my art came around April of 2020 when I found my style. Because till March maybe, I had been doing classes, and I was afraid to create on my own very much. I did it a little bit for YouTube, but in a very struggling beginner kind of way, in the sense I had to repaint something several times until I got it to be the way that I wanted it. So it was good to improve, but it was tedious and stressful sometimes, and I knew I had to do something to level up. And in April 2020, there was an Art Philosophy ambassador call. If you don't know, Art Philosophy is a brand of watercolor paints mostly. It's part of Prima. I really wanted to be picked, but I was too fearful to create heavily, so I had no choice to just dive in and get to work. I created a new painting for I think 45 days that the challenge was for. We didn't have to post every day, but I really wanted to make it, so I did that. Another way you could replicate that for yourself is doing a 100 or 30-day challenge. Because what happened was it really took my skills to the next level, and clearly my realistic watercolor style showed through. Art Philosophy picked me as part of the team, so mission accomplished there. And since then, I've been refining my style, trying different supplies, getting into watercolor pencils, and lately I've been working on portraits more. So you see, it's a never-ending but highly creative journey that we're so lucky to have as artists. Also, very important because I created so much in 2020 and also 2021 is that nowadays, if I need to show my local students an example about a specific topic, or I meet with someone who wants to work with me, I always have the right paintings for them. Even for YouTube, when I need to showcase examples, I'll always have a bunch of paintings to choose from, which is really nice. So if you can focus on creating in the early years of building an art business, because that's when you will have more time for that, it's well worth the time and effort. In 2020, I was already on YouTube, but still learning and progressing very slowly, which is usually how everyone starts anyways. And I had added Instagram as a way to improve my art skills, share artwork, and connect with others. At the end of 2020, I taught my first class on Skillshare. With YouTube, I already knew this was something I was interested in, teaching, and my skills were at a point where I felt legitimate making a class, but overall, I still felt a bit lost as to where my very small art business was going to go. Was I going to get into teaching 100% or maybe start selling artwork? There are so many different ways to work as an artist that a big challenge at that time was to even know what direction to take. And I feel that platforms like Instagram, where you interact with a lot of other artists, don't always help because you constantly feel pulled towards different directions looking at what everyone else is doing. I enjoyed making classes on Skillshare and I got great feedback, so I kept going and made about one class a month for 2 years, which has helped me build a small side income from just Skillshare, even though I tell you what everyone else says, not to put all your eggs in one basket. So I kept posting on YouTube, but my biggest struggle from the time I started Skillshare till now actually has been to manage both. So I built a solid bank of classes on Skillshare, and now I'm able to be active again on YouTube after also leaving Instagram aside, because with YouTube, I enjoy that I get to push myself to create compelling artworks, and at the same time, I get to experiment and study my craft, which as a teacher really is something that I not only enjoy, but that feels important. And on social media, I feel it's more about producing quantity than quality, and I don't want to create in a rush, even though that was very helpful in the beginning as a learner, to build habits, and like I said earlier, to find style and improve skills. Okay, so in 2021, I had something going on with Skillshare and a community of likewise artists on Instagram, some partnerships with brands like Art Philosophy, but Instagram being so fickle and with the beginning of Reels and short form videos, which still don't make sense to me, and just the whole concept of sharing art changing so much, I knew I needed to expand towards activities that would feel a bit more predictable and more in tune with becoming the art teacher and YouTuber I wanted to be. And because I had a large audience on Instagram, I did get contacted once in a while by art brands, so I gave my first live teaching with Etcher that year. And I found that again, I love to teach, but lives were a bit draining, so I didn't pursue that. Locally, I was surprised someone found me through my kid's dad actually. They were looking for a watercolor artist to teach a workshop at a festival, and that's how I started teaching in person this time. I taught 3 workshops in 2022 thanks to that. I loved it, big surprise. And I have some planned in 2023 as well. So that has been a nice way to diversify and grow my business in a way that feels more safe than just being online. In 2022, I also started teaching weekly watercolor classes. The teacher at the local art school was leaving. They were looking for someone, and it turns out there's hardly any watercolor classes around here. So we opened that up with me in my town, and so far it's been pretty good, and it's one more income stream I'm happy to have and an additional way to perfect my skills as a teacher. So it's extra work every week, but it's well worth it. 2022 is my year of clarity, knowing that I really love to teach, both online and in person, and the year of managing a minimum wage on a consistent basis with all my income streams. With all of that, I finally felt ready to build a website and an email list. I also want to say, because this was so helpful and so freeing for me, I turned the Instagram page, almost, when I created the Painting and Chocolate brand. I left my old 18K Instagram account without regret, started a new humble small account where I post frequently, but without ever feeling any pressure to engage with my peers constantly. It's a huge time suck at this point in my journey, honestly. Or post at a certain time or do 10 reels a day. It took a huge weight off my chest that I knew was keeping me stuck before. Awesome place to connect and to challenge and to grow as an artist, but I really needed to focus on teaching fully. Stop comparing to other artists and stop feeling like I should do so many things because everyone else is. So you can see it took a while since 2019. It definitely wasn't easy. I started from nothing, no watercolor skills, and not paying myself for almost 2 entire years. But I kept at it despite the many ups and downs. And my small business has been developing and growing every year without fail. It's still humble, but I know, and I'm sure in fact, that it will keep growing. So for you who are listening to this is a fantastic journey that will most likely change your life, because I can tell you I have grown as a person, as an artist, and as a teacher. I'm learning to run a business, which I never thought that I was cut out to do before. And overall, you get to educate yourself on so many things. It's really interesting. Self-development is even one of those, not just art and business. So it's worth being patient and doing the work, and for some of us, it will be quicker than it was for me, so you never know. And I don't even know what to expect for the year to come and the next, except I'll be working some more at developing my skills and teachings. And at least I'm starting 2023 with more focus than I've had till recently. I hope this was helpful and motivating. Reach out to chat in the comments. And if you want to hear more about steps of the journey I described here, I have a playlist that you can watch right here, and that's the older version of me talking in those videos, so probably a different perception that I have today.